Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So in front of me I've got a new release from San Martin, but it's one that I was a little late to get my hands on. A couple of reasons which I'll go into a bit later, but let's get the box open. Let's take a look at which one it is. So this is the SN0129, the very popular release from San Martin. In fact, it's had so many reviews and so many positive 5-star reviews on the AliExpress store. And they've come out with a bunch of colorways. Now, initially, when they came out with the first version, I believe it was that sand dune dial. Now, personally, I don't like those dials. And because there was such a hype around it, you know, it didn't really want to make me reach out and get one. But then they released some other versions. They released this stone dial trio of variants. You do have a white marble dial, you've got an aventurine dial, and you've got this Lapiz Lazuli dial. And I've been wanting something exotic from San Martin in the dial department. So as I've reviewed plenty of aventurine dials, I went with the Lapiz Lazuli dial, which is like a stone dial. Now, I haven't looked into it, but it just seems like a type of marble, perhaps. And yeah, it's something different. So this review is going to be short and sweet. As I said, many people know what this watch is all about. They've sold over 700 pieces. So it's just, you know, my review now, my way to chip in my 2 pence on this particular watch. Specs wise, you've got a top hat style air coated sapphire crystal. You've got a static GMT bezel, you've got a stainless steel case and bracelet, female end links, etc. You've also got the on-the-fly adjustable clasp, which is a bit of a standard on all San Martin watches now at a certain price point. You do have, strangely, 100 meters of water resistance. You've got a screw-down case back and a screw-down crown, so I don't know why they've given it less water resistance. Maybe because it isn't a diver and they don't want to give that impression. And the watch uses the Seiko NH34 GMT movement. Now, so dimensions wise, this has some really great dimensions. 39mm case diameter, a total of 13.5mm thickness, which I'd say it is a little thick. It could have done with being a little shorter. Perhaps get rid of the top hat sapphire crystal. There's no need for that really. It's not a vintage style design, it's quite modern, so a flat crystal or a slightly domed crystal would have been sufficient in my opinion. Lug to lug is just under 49mm. You do have female end links, which is a big bonus. The lug width is 20mm and the bracelet tapers down to a lovely 16mm. Full on weight is 150 grams, sized for my 6.5 inch wrist, it went down to 140. Price wise, it's £287, this particular variant with no sales on AliExpress. Yes, when the sales happen, you do get a fair bit off. However, they do have a bit of a deal on the white sand dial. That is just at £230. Let's go ahead and look at the main star of the show. Of course, it's this Lapiz Lazuli dial. So the beauty with these dials and why I like them so much, or these natural dials, as one might call them, is the variants you get, right? So no two will be the same. And you know what I loved about the aventurine dial, I like something different about this. It's just the grain that you see on the marble or the stone. It does give you a background of deep outer space, maybe some nebulas, stars. So yeah, it's a very dynamic dial, and I like the sort of gold speckled veins that you get in this stone. So really beautiful to look at. But I have, I think, one main problem with this watch. I mentioned it on other couple of San Martin watches, is while San Martin absolutely kill it in their finishing, I think they are unbeatable at this moment. I feel there's a lack of micro detailing present on the handset and the hour markers. For me, while it is perfectly legible, I would like slightly thicker hands, maybe for them to have a slightly different shape, maybe a bit more of a wider taper, but they are quite slim. They're like stick hands, and therefore you get very flat polished hands. I'd love to see some bevels on either side, maybe some brushing to the center, and I know it's something that San Martin is capable of doing. It would just make me feel that much better about paying £280 if it had those features. Same thing with the hour markers. While they do have a polished bevel at the end, but just polished, right? I want to see some brushing on either side of that loom, maybe some beveling, and you know, just San Martin really flexing their muscles that they know they are capable of, and that for me would perfect it. Now personally, I don't like this static fixed bezel. I do have a problem with watches which they've got a chunky bezel which looks like it should rotate, and of course we know this is a Magica Grand Seiko sports watch, and I don't like those for the same reason. I just feel like turning the bezel, maybe that's just a me problem, but yeah, aside from my own kind of issues with this watch, I think in terms of finishing, It's something which cannot be touched. They've done really well, really crisp and soft definitions. If you take a look at where the transition changes from the polish to the brushing, it's extremely crisp, which it always has been with San Martin. That polished bevel, which is present on so many watch cases, and when I first saw them, I was instantly in love. It just really enhances the watch case. Now with this particular watch, I do have an asymmetrical case, which is again not to my preference, but they have made that polished bevel just go a bit wider and go over to those crown guards, which the crown fits in there perfectly. The crown size is just under 6.5 millimeters, which is perfect, and you know, it just fits nicely in there, tucks itself away. You take a look at the bezel, you've got that linear brushing, but it has been softened. So soft. Usually on flat bezels you see a coarser type of brushing, but that does look good. And then the transitions on the bezel as well, very crisp and, you know, clear with that circular brushing around the bottom edge. So in terms of case, it is perfect, right? You really can't mess with San Martin there, and that brushing is just so smooth and so soft. We take a look at the case back, just bland. Again, another bit of a problem there, because San Martin could give us sapphire case backs now. Yeah, just to, you know, show something different, you know, because they have signed the crown, but they've stopped signing those case backs. Now, moving on to the bracelet, you know, there's not much to say on the bracelet. It is really good. One thing I can report back is that it's not overly sharp, but it does still have the edginess which is present on quite a few watches. So they do go between the two. I've seen some San Martin releases where they have a edge around there which has been beveled very slightly, or it's been finished where you don't get that edgy sort of design. And this one is present, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not something which you really feel. And of course, you've got the on-the-fly adjustable clasp, which works a treat. I'm actually using it right now with the way I've sized it. I love that spring pusher. It's definitely one step above those other on-the-fly adjustments where you've got to pull down that little tab to pull it out. This one just works a lot smoother. And of course, the usual clasp with that really soft brushing, the San Martin logo, and those beveled twin pushers. So a hell of a lot of detail. Now, I've recently looked at some high-priced micro brands, and this is where, you know, I can give San Martin its full credit, its full dues, because this level of brushing and quality that you see here, even if it does use the Seiko NH34, you get micro brands charging above £600, around £800. So San Martin coming at £280 is a bit of a bargain when you look at it that way. You know, you can't just look at it as an AliExpress watch or a Chinese watch brand, because the majority of watch manufacturers do actually go to China and get the parts made and the cases made, etc. So for that reason, I think San Martin is really elevated. So what's left is, of course, to give you guys a wrist shot and a lume shot. And the lume, you know, everything as expected. BGW9, really bright, even though you got thin slithers on the hour markers and the handset, it's something that you can see, and it will last long enough. I just wish the hands, as I said, and the hour markers were just a little bit different. But on wrist, it is very comfortable. As I said, I really love the dimensions. I've got a 6.5-inch wrist, and this 39mm case is perfect with that lug-to-lug of 47mm or just under. I like that 16mm taper on the bracelet. You know, very premium, fits spot on. And yeah, if I like the design and the asymmetrical case, is something that I would have been, you know, over the moon about. But just a couple of design things which are not to my preference, but it doesn't take anything away from the watch. I still think it's an amazing watch. And yeah, most of the reviews, or if not all the reviews, are bang on about this watch. I mean, they've done really well. The rest is up to you in terms of the colorways. They have given us lots of options, and I really am feeling this Lapiz Lazuli dial, something very different. The red accents do make it pop as well. So yeah, that's great. So that's it from me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.